Hello and welcome to another episode of The Traveling Pianist. On today's episode, I'm going to be doing some budgeting and figuring out what is the best course of action to take, where I'm going to live, etc. at the end of the month. So stay tuned and keep watching. Alright, so I actually recorded this earlier while I was writing it out, but I don't think anyone wants to see that. It got a little bit confusing. I ended up getting food in the middle of it. My phone ran out of power. So I'm just going to go over my budget the way I ended up drawing it out, and I'll show you what I'm talking about and how things end up having to work. So first thing, I need to go over my expenses. Just add it up, see how much money I spend every month. So car, first thing, $277 a month is my car payment. I ended up having to finance a new car after my old car got totaled. I just didn't have any money to buy a new one, and it's just what it is. The car is only a couple years old, so maintenance for the next couple of months is still going to be zero. It doesn't really even need an oil change until, I believe, the end of October, beginning of November. And it's still a relatively new car, so it's unlikely anything's going to go wrong with it. Car insurance is costing me $158 a month right now. This may end up actually going down. I just noticed that they adjusted my car insurance rates down slightly, so hopefully that will help. If you live in another part of the world, outside of Seattle or another big city, you'll find that your insurance rates are a lot lower. My insurance rates are almost entirely determined by my zip code. I've messed around getting quotes from them online. I can change my age, I can change how many speeding tickets I have, I can change all kinds of variables there, and nothing really makes any impact on my car insurance except for my zip code. And so it is what it is, $158 a month. Hopefully once I change my zip code and I get outside of Seattle, that will improve. And I know this is just because there are so many accidents in Seattle, and I've honestly been lucky that I've had as few as I've had. So I just noticed I made a mistake with my fuel here. So fuel cost me about $40 per week. So let's fix that, which equals $160 per month. So I'll have to adjust this as well. So instead of being $475, that is now... Okay, so I think I fixed the mistake there. We'll see as we go through if I corrected everything where the expenses were wrong. So anyways, so my total expenses for the car would be $595 per month, and there's really not a lot I can do to change that. I have to have my car to get to my students' houses, and so that's the amount it costs for me to do that. Now, the good thing about the car is I do get to write a lot of that money off on taxes at the end of the year, and so it helps with my tax situation, but still, it's not great. But it is what it is. Health insurance, $16. Dental insurance is costing me $36. I know this is unusually low, but it's because Washington State subsidizes healthcare quite heavily if you're in the lower income brackets. For the last several years, I haven't had to pay anything. So this is the first year I've actually had to pay for health insurance at all, and it's $16 a month. Dental insurance is not included in any healthcare plan. Of course, there's no state-run dental insurance company because apparently they think that you don't need teeth. And fortunately, dental plans are $36 a month, and I decided to actually get one this year. So $52 a month total to cover my healthcare. I think the best solution for health insurance in general is just stay healthy. One of the problems with my health insurance that I'm buying there is it does have a deductible, and basically if I get sick at all, I'm having to pay that deductible, and that would bankrupt me. It's just the way it is. So stay healthy, eat a healthy diet, get plenty of exercise, and that's basically all I can do. And hopefully someone will do something about health insurance over this next year. Food is costing me about $300 a month. It varies a little bit depending on how many meals I end up making, but I make almost all my own food, and There's only a couple days a week that I end up having to buy food. I've been better about just preparing meals ahead of time so that I don't have to do that. So my total food is $300 a month right now, and it doesn't tend to change that much actually. So phone and internet is costing me $100 a month. So I use the wireless internet plan that Verizon has. It's in this area at least. It's plenty fast, and I need my phone to do my job, and I need to have access to the internet on the go because I don't work at home most of the time. I'm working out at students' houses, so I need to have that access to the internet. On the other hand, I won't really ever buy a land-based internet connection again. If it's included with the building or the apartment or whatever, then that's fine, but it's just not necessary for me. So my total expenses come to $1,042 per month, and that's what they are currently living with someone else. Obviously not great, but there isn't too much I can do about all of that. It's all kind of fixed expenses. I can always try to do a little bit better with food, but it is what it is. Everything else is really not optional. It's just what I have to go with. Okay, so my income for the month of October. And so this is where we get into kind of planning my budget for the future here. I'm self-employed, so my budget is not consistent. I don't teach as much during the summer, and so my income is much lower during the summer. I also don't perform as much during the summer, so my income is lower. But I'm fairly confident that at the beginning of October, between my private students who pay ahead of time and the students I have through contract work, I should be receiving about $1,800 by October 5th. And that will leave me about $758 left over, and that's all going to taxes. I still owe a little bit of taxes from last year because my tax bill unexpectedly doubled, despite the fact my income did not. It's just the way the tax code was written this year. It just cost me twice as much. Again, not much I can do about that. So my income in November is almost certainly going to be closer to $2,000, and that's just because some of my students were gone for the first half of September. I mean, granted, we're still not completely through the first half of September, but the way it all works out, I should be making around $2,000 I should be receiving around $2,000 at the beginning of November. This number actually may be slightly higher, but we'll see. And so for the month of November, I didn't change this one. So for the month of November, I will have $958 left over, assuming that nothing else changes. So obviously that's not a lot to work with. There obviously needs to be more that I have to do with my income. Again, this wouldn't have been such a big deal if my original plan had worked out, but it didn't, and my car got totaled, and that was the risk I took, trying to improve things. So I can't complain too much. I learned a lot, and we'll move on. Rent around here, in general, it costs about $1,000 a month for the smallest places you can rent. There's a couple of places that are closer to $800 a month, somewhere in there. With the security deposit, for most of these places, it seems to be about $1,500 a month. Fortunately, gone are the days where you had to pay like 3 times 1 month's rent plus a security deposit to actually live anywhere. Almost everywhere around here seems to just be charging either first and last rent or rent plus security deposit. And this is the more common strategy for landlords to take at the moment. So that's what I'm going to go with. The places that I priced out in the area are about $1,500 just to get started, and then $1,000 per month in rent. So I'd really like to move at the end of September. I don't want to overstay my welcome here in my current living situation, and I'm hoping that if I can sell the boat for at least $1,500, then I should be able to move out of this current situation into something a little bit better. As you noticed, my November rent, or my November income, I'll likely have $958 left over and not the $1,000 left over, and that could be a potential problem. So I need to make sure that my November income increases quite a bit. Okay, so in the past couple of years, I have generally averaged about $3,000 per month during the school year. And part of the reason why it's lower right now is I did lose a couple of students over the summer, and that always happens every year. And so I ended up having to rebuild my studio just a little bit. And so I need to figure out how many more students I want to take on. So if I was going to get $1,000 per month simply from teaching, here's what I'd have to do. So it'd be, I make about $140 per month per half-hour student. And so that leaves you with, if you do the math, about 4 one-hour students or 8 half-hour students, just depending on what level they're at. And right now, obviously, it's preferable to have longer students, but students with longer lessons tend to be more advanced and they're a little bit harder to come by. But it's getting easier to find them now that I've been already teaching at those more advanced levels. So there's kind of pros and cons there. I might end up I think I have 2 more students that haven't returned yet this year. And so they will be returning, and they're not included in this November income. So I think once we add everything up, I'm going to need about 1 or 2 more students just to basically break even. And I think that's the smart thing to do. And then, of course, instead of taking on tons of students, I could make that money from performing. And all this math up here is just assuming all I'm doing is teaching, and that's not the case. I already have 2 performances that are either scheduled or done for the month of September, and I haven't been paid for them yet, so I don't know how much that's going to be. So can't really add that into my income right now. But really, what I need to do is perform, because this, as you notice, teaching 4 one-hour students, that is 4 hours more of teaching, not including driving time. If you include driving time, these numbers are going to almost double. 4 hours worth of teaching is going to end up being closer to 7 or 8 hours of driving. And obviously, it depends on where the students live. Sometimes it can be better if the students are all grouped close together. But in my experience, they tend to just be all over the place. And even if they are grouped together for a couple months, then during this change in sports season at the end of the calendar year, then everything gets scrambled again, and oftentimes I end up having to go back to just spending about the same amount of time driving as I do teaching. And unfortunately, that's just the way that is. So I really need to get this performance stuff to work, because if I don't, I have problems. I don't see... Basically, if I decided to change careers again, I wouldn't be able to afford it. So I have to make this work. Here's the strategy, and I think this is most likely what I'm going to have to do. So the boat, it needs to go. I don't see any other option. Even if I moved on board, I could potentially move on board, but it would have to be at the beginning of October, and I just don't think it's going to work anymore. So by the end of the month, by September 30th, I need to sell the boat for at least $1,700, $1,750. If it doesn't sell for that much, which it seems crazy that it wouldn't sell for that much, that's very low for that boat. So I really need to get the boat sold. Second thing I have to do, I need to pick up 1 to 2 more students. Some of these may end up just being returning students. They need to be private students, whatever the case. So I have to pick up 1 or 2 more students. And then I want to, and probably need to be out of my current living situation by October 1st. There can be a little bit of variability there, just depending. But I really need to be gone by October 1st, find a new place to live. I already have a couple leads on places to live that are still expensive but reasonable. So as you can see, my budget is a little bit tricky to actually do. So the biggest problem with my budget isn't so much that my expenses are too high. Like in a lot of people's situations, people like to just spend lots of money and they just don't pay attention. I'm not like that at all. I actually don't spend much of any money except on things that I think will either make me money or will reduce my cost of living. So that's really not my issue here. My issue here is the cost of living in Seattle is very high. As you can see with teaching, I'm already teaching, spending about 20 to 30 hours a week driving and teaching. And so that doesn't leave a lot of time for other things. And so I will try to pick up 1 or 2 more students because I have to. I think that'll be my base kind of income, and then everything else will just be on top. And I really need to get that performance stuff going this year. I don't really have any options. It needs to get done. I need to be able to go and book a performance at a venue and do the marketing and perform. And I have actually some really interesting leads on how to do that, which I'll share in a future video. So the question for a lot of you may be, how does this fit in my plans for the future? I'm not exactly planning on traveling according to my budget, and you would be correct. I can't travel right now. I just don't have enough money to, and I'm not likely to until next June. So the biggest thing that I can do to help my case is I need to get that performance stuff going. If I can do that, then I can rebuild my emergency fund, and hopefully I don't get into any accidents before then. That would be really catastrophic if I got into another accident. But any traveling that I do right now, it's solely going to be for performance. If I couldn't come up with enough money for even just like $100, say from my boat sale or something like that, then what I'm going to do is book another performance immediately out in Ellensburg and execute my plan on performing there again. I think that is the smartest thing for me to do. I really need to focus on that. And of course, I'm going to keep going with this YouTube channel, uploading videos every day as much as possible. I've already noticed that the YouTube algorithm is helping me out a little bit so far. Just noticed that it keeps on ticking up every day that I post a new video, and it's sharing it with people, putting in suggested videos, and every day things get just a little bit better. So hopefully this give you a little bit of insight what it's like working as a piano teacher here in Seattle and what my budget ends up looking like. And hopefully you can see a little bit better about why I have decided to sell the boat and why I am doing what I'm doing, basically. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe. There's a link to subscribe right over the top of my face there. And then somewhere around here, I don't know exactly where, there are links to 2 new videos that you can take a look at. They're both videos that YouTube thinks you might find interesting. So thank you for watching.